light the fire within. This prize sought so long, so nearly lost, so vulnerable still. This is truly Olympic.
Salt Lake City and its stately capital are nestled against the Wasatch Mountains, and here they receive more than 500 inches of snow every year, making this the perfect place for winter sporting events like the Winter Games. But it's an imperfect world, as we have come to know, and there are those who worry that these very games will make this city a target for terrorists. Hello, I'm Keith Morrison. We're about to go on a journey, you and I, to places where no cameras have been permitted. We're going to show you unparalleled inside access to the inner workings of the machine that has put together the second largest sporting event in the world.
It's a story worthy of Homer, a city famous for its moral rectitude, tarnished by scandal, threatened by terrorism, overcomes, makes the medals, builds the venues, hangs portraits 18 stories tall, builds the biggest winter games in history. And we're going to see how they did it.
Well, the International Olympic Committee has decided to award the organization of the 19th Olympic Winter Games to the city of Salt Lake City.
Then a bribery scandal erupted in 1998, threatening the games and decimating the original committee. Salt Lake City organizers were forced to start from scratch. Your city is a very unusual city in the sense that it does have a set of values which I think shocked a lot of people, that it would be Salt Lake, for heaven's sake, that got involved in such a thing.
What these people did here in Salt Lake City was not reflective of the values of this community any more than of any other community in this country. I think that it was more a sense of maybe this is what we have to do to compete with everybody else.
Right.
Nobody's forgotten about it, but we can move forward, and I think that it's in moving forward toward putting on a very successful games is going to show that we had these huge challenges and we overcame them as a community.
So when Mitt Romney came into the organization and became our new CEO in February of '99, we looked at ways to be open, honest, direct, communicate with the community so they felt confident in the organizers of the games.
What these games needed was very much down the line of what I had done over the past several years. I'd been in the turnaround business. I'd go into companies that were in trouble, try and manage them and help turn them around. And if there was ever a enterprise in trouble, this was it. I knew some people who had some skills that I could call on to perhaps come here and help out with the games.
Initially, I wasn't very inclined because of all the problems that had been related to this organization.
It was a huge scandal.
Scandal, financial problems, different things like that. But then Mitt encouraged me to take a second look, and I did, and I've been happy ever since.
What do you know about Olympics? What did you know about Olympics?
I knew very little about Olympics, but this is, after all, a human enterprise, and like any other human enterprise, be it a business or a charity, there are certain principles which have to be in place in order for it to be successful, and those things weren't in place in Salt Lake City. The team that we've been able to build, I think, is one of the reasons we're back on track.
The assumption has been for years that these guys at Olympics meetings sit around and eat steak and drink the best possible wines and, you know, go home in their fancy car.
Well, that's all gone. And we've stripped away all those elements that weren't critical to putting on the games. For example, at our board meetings, you buy your own slice of pizza at $1 a slice.
We are a team, and I know it sounds trite, but if any of the cogs in the wheel doesn't work, it's just like a grandfather clock, it stops ticking. And so we're very into integration. And as you travel around our building, you see more meeting space than you can shake a stick at. The trick is to make all these people work together as a team.
My name is Ed Eyman. I'm Senior Vice President for Human Resources and International Relations. So I have all the people issues associated with SLOC. When a person gets hired here, they also have their fire date. That's a little unusual, so people know they're going to be canned.
I'm Senior Vice President for Venues and Transportation. What we're responsible for is to really create an end-to-end experience for the spectators and the other people that comes to the games. And that's, we transport them, we build the venues that they are going to spend their time in.
My job here at SLOC is all of the creative functions for the organizing committee, and those are ceremonies. Second major group is look at the games, and then third is creative services, our in-house ad agency.
My job is to oversee the sport program for the games, and so pretty much what it comes down to, anything an athlete touches is primarily what my responsibilities are.
I'm essentially responsible for the technology for the 2002 Olympics. I have information services, I have telecommunications, and I have our website.
We come together, we have a job to get done, that's going to be a party for 16 days, and then we go away. I spent time with every single director here at SLOC, and I developed their work plans. 600, 700, 800,000 tasks, and these are major tasks, these aren't the minor ones. Also did that for Salt Lake City, worked with the mayor and all his department heads, identified 8,000 tasks there that the city had to do. Here at SLOC, we identified 37,000 tasks. Yeah, just like anything else, it's like eating the elephant, you do it a bite at a time. Here in the main operations center, or MOC, or MOC, and as you've started to probably understand, we have more acronyms than Mission Central in Houston. Yeah. We can just speak whole sentences without saying real words around here.
Give me a sentence. You just about did it. Give me a sentence with just a...
The COO at the MOC is unable to talk to the VTM regarding TRAN to DVR. Which would mean he can't get to Deer Valley, and he's having a problem getting a bus or a vehicle.
You could say it much more.
You probably could, but it wouldn't be as much fun.
Right, true.
Every Monday morning, we make ourselves available to be asked any question a journalist may have. We go out to community, we had community town meetings where Mitt would go out and meet with hundreds of members of the community throughout Utah, and we made him available on the radio.
Let's talk Olympics. Mitt Romney is in with us, as always. Happy holidays to you, Mr. Romney. How are you?
Well, thank you. I'm feeling great. When I came back here from the East Coast and saw all this snow and all this cold, I said, boy, these games are coming, and it's going to be beautiful.
These were games that should not have occurred. I mean, the scandal should have killed it. There were multi-million-dollar backers who wanted to pull out that very day and have nothing to do with the Olympics again, ever. And then you get September 11th and the possibility of some sort of terrorist act. What bigger target is there? These are games that shouldn't happen.
You know, in some respects, these games have been Olympic, and that is that the challenges have been enormous. And I've thought about the fact that these Olympians take enormous risks. They do things that have never been done before, at faster speeds than ever before, facing, in some cases, a history of broken bones or other injuries, and they overcome the challenges. We've had a bit of that experience ourselves. The world waits to see these young athletes and see the qualities of character they exhibit. And it's our job to make sure that nothing stops them.
When we come back, safe, but how safe?
One of the safest places on the globe, from the beginning to the end of February, will be Salt Lake City.
See how when the game behind the games continues.
In a few days, this plaza, now empty, will be crammed with people, and the whole world will be watching the games which might never have happened, which because of scandal had to regroup and prove their purity, which because of September 11th had to regroup and prove that they could protect the athletes and the spectators who came to watch them from a peril which was once unimaginable, but isn't anymore.
When most Americans think of terrorism, they think of two words: ground zero. But Olympic planners have two other words in mind: Munich, Atlanta.
Following 1972 and the Munich Games and the recognition of just how high a level of security is needed for the Olympic Games, that enormous resources, meaning personnel and planning, had been put in place to secure these games. In the case of Atlanta, what we learned is you don't want to have a celebration site where some deranged person can cause injury to others. Following September 11th, everything was open to review. And the agencies responsible for security, and that's not us, as you probably know. We don't manage security. We're the beneficiary of the security program. But the Secret Service, FBI, FEMA, or the Federal Emergency Management Agency, as well as the Utah Olympic Public Safety Command, or UOPSIC, they all met collectively and individually. They reviewed the plans for the games and made a number of important changes.
What everybody keeps counting on, I guess, is the fact that all these agencies are, for once, probably for the first time, actually working together.
There's no one agency that can take 100% credit for all that's been done here, because it's been too large, it's been too specific in its needs. So therefore, taking the best of the best, putting it into play, and then weaving it together so you have one continuous security fabric.
The security thing is a nightmare. And I know you're saying the federal government is going to look after that. It's not really our job. We'll just do whatever they tell us to do.
Yeah, but I'll be blamed. I'll be blamed.
Yeah,
I have
sure.
to recognize anything that goes wrong, any hole, any gap in security, people will say, how come you, Mitt Romney, and your team didn't look at it and didn't get that fixed? And so whether or not we're responsible for security, we make sure that we put our stamp of approval, that everything is there, that we've looked at everything.
Have you heard anything about a backpack, an unknown backpack around?
I haven't heard anything.
We might keep your eyes open and ears open.
When we compare to Atlanta being larger games, being summer games, they spent $98 million on security. Our games are spending now over $300 million on security. Very comprehensive, led by the Secret Service.
Before September 11th, that number might have been what?
That number was about $270 million.
So you're just bumping it up a
We're
bit.
bumping it up.
What things are you doing that people should know are out there if they're nervous?
I think those coming to the games and those watching should take comfort in knowing that the venues have been designed with security plans to make them extremely safe.
They call it locked down, and nothing will come inside that perimeter without it having gone through security. And that includes hamburgers going to McDonald's, Cokes going to the Coke truck. All those things will be carefully screened before they come into that area.
You'll have agents up in the hills looking for bad guys.
There won't be any area that we won't have a view of.
Day and night?
It's a 24-hour operation.
I don't believe the athletes will be as safe any other place that they will be competing as they will be here in Salt Lake City.
I would tell you that I believe that one of the safest places on the globe from the beginning to the end of February will be Salt Lake City.
That's because of the air restrictions. It's because of personal searches that will go on. It's because of fencing systems.
What is this? Where are we?
We're inside what we call a buffer zone. We've created here a Jersey barricade, as is commonly known, and a fence on top that gives us the height, but we've also put an additional fence inside to create a buffer. And this is the area that our perimeter security officers will be working. They'll have booths in here, they'll be on a rotation schedule, and this is our opportunity to interfere with anything or anybody should they try to either come over or around the fence. It's very strong, it's very durable, and it works.
How much do you have to be able to think like a terrorist yourself to do this right?
We think the same way. So the trick here is to find the ways that we think that we could potentially be affected, and then to shut it down.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the guard doing all of the bag inspection, just wondering if there's a way of identifying people that need a real thorough search and others that can go more quickly, or whether this is something that we're going to have no influence on.
Well, we've always talked about, in the past, we've tried express lanes and we've tried hands-free lanes.
Adam, good evening.
Hi, Matt.
Hello, Adam.
My family's safety at the Olympics and at the venues wanted to know, is there going to be facilities there? Are we going to be able to get shots from, some biological agents? What kind of things would you do to protect us after something bad?
What I'll tell you is that the people in charge of what they call consequence management, or what you do when stuff gets bad, is a group called the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. And the FEMA people have put together a plan and will have resources in this area to respond to any type of crisis, biological, chemical, or other crisis. And that would include, of course, the types of medical products that you would expect them to have. Those things will be in place in this area to respond to any kind of crisis.
We're invited to a high-level meeting. Games, organization, teams, or GOT. Everything is on the table. Transportation to food contamination.
So that there's actually a field inspector out there with the USDA representative, and actually as that product is being made and shipped into our cold freezer storage over here, a supplement of that product is actually pulled out and tested for things like listeria or botulism or whatever else.
But what happens if we have a bad product that we've not detected and people start getting sick? This is where I think it comes into medical.
If they're just at home and they're not acutely ill, we probably won't find out about it. But if they become acutely ill and seek care, it should be detected pretty quickly.
And then they'll go through a protocol of asking particular questions to try and determine the source, and then we match it up to our people in food service and see.
Exactly.
I just want to briefly explain with regards to acts of terrorism which can be classified as an explosive device detonation, a hostage situation, or a weapons of mass destruction, which is biological, chemical, or nuclear.
Some secrets were out of bounds, even for us. The discussion turned to the most sensitive issues. We agreed to turn off our cameras.
Threats or active terrorism. I think we should do that.
I'd like to stop.
After dark days and Olympic-sized bribery scandals, who will fund the Olympics now?
All that money has to come from somewhere, and it comes from corporate America.
When the game behind the games continues.
With the bribery scandal safely behind them, Salt Lake City organizers were free to focus on a crucial piece of business, raising money.
When you got here, what kind of, you say financial problems, what sort of a situation did you find yourself in?
Well, we discovered that there was a deficit of about $400 million between our expected revenues and costs, particularly when you've only raised about $13 million the previous year. And when you've only got 3 years left to the games, it doesn't take a math genius to figure out you've got a problem.
This doesn't look like the one in Sydney it looked like. That was like very, very fancy.
Right.
Fancy is
right. Sydney had $5 billion to spend. We've got about $1.3 billion to spend. We've cut where it's not necessary and where people won't see.
Mm-hmm. We have large sources of revenue from broadcasters, a record-breaking amount of sponsorship funds, $860 million from domestic sponsors. We have already sold 170 million tickets. To break even, we must not only meet all of our expenses, but we must leave a $40 million endowment to maintain Olympic facilities after we leave. Our total budget for our games is $1.3 billion.
Next stop, Clearfield. Hey, Mark, good evening. You're on Let's Talk Olympics.
In terms of funding, the funding for public safety is roughly $230 to $40 million, all paid for by the federal government. None of the security program is being funded by sponsors.
Mitt really focused on raising money and going out to sponsors and rekindling the Olympic fire that we see.
I think the results speak for themselves. We've raised $860 million for these games. Atlanta raised about $480 million. So we've hit the targets that we set for ourselves.
This is the largest superstore ever for an Olympic Winter Games. We've got caps and jackets and mascots, lanyards and sunglasses, caps, collectible jewelry, artwork with sculpture posters, banners and flags and tattoos, glassware, mugs and keychains and everything. I think we could fit somebody's need from start to finish, you know, whether you have a couple dollars to spend or whether you have $5,000 to spend. There's something here for everybody.
We actually take a brick, we can engrave the name of a person or family, and we lay it into the ground that is over in our Olympic Legacy Plaza. We'll sell them through Games Time. They're available on our website. Not only would we not be able to have the games, but there wouldn't be a U.S. Olympic team. All that money has to come from somewhere, and it comes from corporate America.
The most valuable items of the Olympic Games cannot be bought. Those things have to be won.
Give me a show and tell at the table.
Oh, okay. We have the raw materials that went into the making of the Olympic medals. In fact, they are mined here in Utah at the Bingham Canyon mine.
All the medals?
Yes.
Including the gold?
Including the gold. In fact, it takes 30 tons of ore to get enough gold out of the ground to plate one gold medal. It's a lot
Just
of ore.
to plate a medal?
Just to plate one gold medal. Yeah, that is a 24-karat pure gold bar. And what you're holding there is enough gold to plate all the gold Olympic medals and Paralympic medals. You're holding right now $37,000 in pure gold.
37?
In that one little bar.
That medal will be cherished by these Olympians for the rest of their life, and really, truly is the greatest award in sports.
Coming up, dry runs, rehearsals, safety checks, from the ice in the rink to the fans in the stands.
An unknown backpack around, that's a potential bomb. What do we do?
When the game behind the games continues.
The transformation around Salt Lake City continues. The landscape changes. The world prepares for an Olympic Games which is apt to be like none other. World records are expected to be made and broken here. Salt Lake offers conditions which are unique. They're unlike any other host city in the world. And not least of those is the world's fastest ice.
It's complicated. It looks simple. You see frozen water and you think, that's it. But it's not.
At 7,000 feet, ice contains less oxygen. It's harder, less resistant, has more speed.
Even the height of the roof matters.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think what we've noticed is it gives us a lot better control of what's happening inside the building. The air temperatures we want are easier to control, are easier to achieve.
Less volume of air?
Less volume of air, really, yeah. We're the highest enclosed oval anywhere in the world.
And everyone thinks ice is ice. Well, curling ice is a whole lot different than speed skating ice, which is a lot different than figure skating, which is a lot different than hockey. Some of the ice is softer, harder, ripples. I mean, you've got pebbling and curling ice. We're going to have enough snow. I don't think our challenge now is going to be not enough snow unless we had some very serious melt, but too much snow. You know, take a downhill course and you look at how large an area that is, and we get a major drop and having to clear and groom the course for the next day. That's a high risk for us. We have 1,500 volunteers out of one venue just to clear snow.
I'm ready to have them here, see some races, see some records.
Ensuring the smoothest, safest games, organizers believe, comes down to planning and practice.
The philosophy I bring is, let's look at every detail.
They just accredited 20 people from Metals Plaza to come in and help with entertainment.
And make sure we're well planned.
You're aware that we also have a gas smell on the broadcast compound?
We have the resources we need.
Responding to your call about wheelchair spectators.
We have the team in place to make decisions.
That was site responding to the basement for what?
Someone had reported to her smell of gas.
Do we have any volunteers in that area?
If there is, then do we need to clear people to ask the question? To who?
You should notify the VCC.
And we have contingency plans.
Someone has notified his backpack along the outside of the fence. Who do we contact? Let's find out where ES is then, because that's a potential bomb. 45 minutes, we're giving them an entire day's worth of work. So it gets pretty hot and intense, but we do that to stress the system and to stress the people so that we see if anything's going to break down, what does. Having that integration is one of the most important things, and we have a lot of devices that we've come up with in the past to help foster that integration. And tell us about the chest pains that you had in the parking lot, maybe, or?
There was a chest pain up in the stands.
Okay.
And we had the mobile nurse respond and the ambulance.
Thank you very much. Broadcast 1 out.
What have you been dealing with just right now, Broadcast 1?
So we had a situation where a hard camera was blocking a photo position, and they were not on their marks, so we had to help them move the camera. They were unable to move it successfully the first time and ended up blocking more spectators and more photo positions.
It's really a test of the communication pathways, and it sounds like everybody's notifying everybody. You're talking to rest, you're talking to transportation, and we take days, literally tens of thousands of man-hours in training people to react appropriately.
Bob's going to lead us through a debrief now on how we did.
What do you think, Mike? If we take the gas leak, let's do the medical, and what if we talk about the traffic? A strong odor similar to propane has been reported coming from a plant room. When you got that call, what did you do?
Knowing that it was from the basement, that's where I kind of took it into natural gas because it's the only thing that we had down there.
You're in the top 3 as far as I think how you've handled yourself, how you've handled communications, how you've notified everybody. You saw that it does behoove us to take some time out from time to time, play a little bit and pretend, and I think we come up with a pearl or two on occasion, which I think we did today. So thank you very much for your time.
My team is responsible for the equipment that's installed at the venues that allows judges to enter scores, that collects times as athletes cross the finish line, as they cross the start line. That information is then fed into our systems, and it's ultimately delivered to commentators, to the press, to the public on TV graphics, and to our website.
This is our testing and integration lab that we've had in operations for about 2 years now. And what we do is we simulate our games computing infrastructure just like it would happen during the Olympics. So I will take you through one of them, for instance, which is the ice hockey test lab.
Ice hockey is just nothing but statistics. It's very, very sophisticated.
Not only do we have to know the statistics side, we have to know all of the rules side.
The magnitude of the system is huge, but in the same respect, the Olympics, I suppose, for any particular event, it would be kind of considered the Cadillac of sporting events. We've made this system for the Olympics, found ways to improve it, tested it to make it bulletproof, not just system-wise, but also people and procedures, and make sure that we're able to handle any kind of scenario so that we don't have any glitches or bumps or anything. And if should something occur, that we can overcome them very smoothly.
At the end of the day, we're going to judge ourselves by how little notice we get, because if we do our job really well, there won't be a lot of talk about technology.
Tradition, history, and technology. The games on TV. How it happens. And look who's back.
First of all, Jim McKay's a great broadcaster. And people sense his basic decency, and they trust him.
When the game behind the games continues.
Now here is the ultimate symbiotic relationship, like macaroni and cheese, nuts and bolts, Burns and Allen, the Olympics, and television.
We could go to the moon and back several times with the amount of cable we have in here. 150 camera spread throughout. 25 to 2,800 people, 1.2 million pounds worth of stuff.
Where does all this stuff come from?
Well, we put all this stuff together for Sydney, shipped it over there, and it shipped back from Sydney.
What, in boxes?
Adjusted.
What do you do with it?
We built 13 of these things you see on my left here, called RIBS platforms. That stands for racks in a box system, which slides into a 20-foot shipping container.
It's all done. You just pull it out of the container and
just add a
bring
few
it
drops
over
of water, pops into place.
So how much equipment do you carry around?
I'd say there's probably about $70 to $75 million worth of hardware. There are over 100 shipping containers. We have more containers than the Barnum and Bailey Circus, more than the Rolling Stones. Some people say it's a 5-ring circus. We also have down the hall the 2 largest portable sound stages or studios. They travel in 42 containers, and that's basically where Bob Costas sits.
How long have you been doing this now?
My first one was '88, but Bryant was the primetime host. I was the late night host.
That's
so
right,
I've been the
I remember
primetime host since '92. in Barcelona. So this will be my 5th Olympics overall, but first Winter Olympics.
Any big stories that you're expecting?
Figure skating, some of the more spectacular, almost extreme sports now in the Winter Olympics, the skeleton, the aerial skiing. That's going to get a huge percentage of the airtime because it's so telegenic. People like to see it. It's exciting and it draws eyeballs to the set. But in fairness, by using CNBC and MSNBC, if curling is your thing, if seeing every minute of every important hockey game is your thing, it's going to be there for you somewhere.
You often hear people saying it's not really a sporting event or it's more than a sporting event, but I've never heard really the explanation of what that essence is that people feel when they get involved with the Olympics.
Yeah,
and that's getting close, what you were just saying.
There is an Olympic experience, and you don't have to go over the top with hearts and flowers to acknowledge that. There is an Olympic experience. And I think the Olympics are more than sports, for better and for worse. And sometimes they truly do transcend sports and their significance. People who never would watch a hockey game remember where they were when they heard about the Miracle on Ice in 1980 in Lake Placid.
After a 14-year absence from the Olympic scene, you're coming back on loan from ABC to be with us in February at Salt Lake City.
It's absolutely unbelievable. For one thing, you and I have known each other quite a long while now, and I've always wanted to work with you on something, but we were always on different networks, and now we're going to do it.
First of all, Jim McKay's a great broadcaster. He's also a genial man, and people sense his basic decency, and they feel comfortable with him, and they trust him. And anybody over a certain age immediately associates him with moments, some tragic like Munich, but most of them glorious, that he provided the soundtrack for. So how can that not be a plus?
In fact, the security will be pretty intense.
Yeah.
Do you think that detracts at all from what you're doing or from what the spectators are seeing when they come here?
If something should happen, and we all hope it doesn't, if something should happen, Tom Brokaw and the rest of the NBC news staff would be here. Some of them will be here already. Tom would get here in a hurry, but I know I would be part of it, and maybe in the immediate aftermath of it, I'd be the first person who would be on the air, and you just hope to handle it.
Do you prepare for such a thing?
I think the way you prepare is just to know the workings of Salt Lake security operation, to know all the local officials, so that when the mayor walks in, you're not saying to somebody, "Psst, who's that guy?" And then just ask, I guess, the logical questions that people would want to have answered. You don't jump to any conclusions.
Having you come back and be with us in Salt Lake City in February, I imagine must be a little bit like if you were with the Yankees in the 60s and DiMaggio decided to come back and play a season with you. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I.
Thank you, Jim.
Very, very much.
Thanks very much.
Coming up, as the countdown commences and the torch approaches, even the food is under wraps.
We know exactly who's in this building every minute of the day and night and weekends.
When the game behind the games continues.
Certified Angus beef, 20,000 pounds of fresh pork. Over 150 student chefs coming from Johnson & Wales. We'll have another 68 to 70 chefs of their own operations. We're creating products that are fun in a concession atmosphere, but are of Olympic proportion. You know, we're using a quarter-pound frankfurter. We're using everything big. Everything's biggie size. Everything's Olympic size. And we do that for a reason, because there has to be value to it. A lot of folks think that the Olympics are expensive, and they are. You know, the tickets or the accommodations or the access. So from a food service perspective, we always wanted to make sure that we were delivering value for the dollars paid.
So that hot dog is going to be a big one.
That hot dog is going to be a big one. We will probably feed between 160 to 170,000 people a day at our peak days.
Per day? You have
well
to
as
make
the bacon
special
and
meals
sausage.
for these guys, right? Excess calories, lots of protein.
Oh, sure. An athlete, and you know, particularly at Snow Basin or one of the Super Gs, could consume up to in excess of 8,000 calories a day.
Whoa!
And so we're talking about these are like sharks. You know, it's a constant eating machine. You know, we're
Now
feeding them all the
chefs
time.
must love to cook for these guys, right?
Well, no. No? You'd think so. The chefs...
Eat more, eat more.
Well,
no?
That's always good, but because of the athletes and the type of meals that we prepare for them, is that we can't have any mysteries about it whatsoever. You know? Are you freezing? It's freezing.
It's cold.
Well,
it's
you wanted
cold,
to see everything, so I wanted to drag you into the freezer, too. I had never done an Olympics before, and was actually scared to death, and still am, you know, until we actually finish that last meal the last day. It's not over yet, but the exciting thing about it is that it allowed us the opportunity to go completely out of the box.
A lot of people, especially post-September 11th, are going to be worried about the food that goes through here that gets to not just the athletes, but people attending the games, the president of the United States. I mean, how do you protect those people?
We try to come up with a plan that would allow all the different food products or anything that was really going to go in through the back of the house or be served to any one of the guests a central point of distribution.
Which is here.
Which is right here.
How do you physically do it, though? I mean, you actually have sniffing dogs.
Oh, sure, there'll be sniffing dogs.
How is this warehouse set up in a way that will deliver those security concerns?
We want to leave nothing to chance. Everything is very specific as to how it's going to be taken care of. All the people that are going to be handling the product will be certified safe to go to the venue. All of those people have had all of the security background checks. We already have a totally secure facility in that we know exactly who's in this building every minute of the day and night and weekends.
You can't be too safe, you can't be too secure. And even though it's a massive undertaking, it's the right thing to do.
Being involved with the Olympics has been a great thing for the O.C. Tanner Company. For one, we're very excited about the Olympics anyway, coming to our community, and now we all get to be a part of it, as part of what we do every day.
There was a whole kind of competition to get the design and...
That's right. Well, they actually asked for designs from all over the country and received lots of different ideas. The one that stuck was the one that we're producing. That was the one that they looked at. It's different, it's unique.
How difficult is it to get that onto an actual medal?
There's several different steps. First of all, we take the artist's sketch, and then we'll go into the computer, we'll build it up, and then we'll set up the tool path machine to cut the die out, and then it'll go to the Olympic Committee.
We've designed these medals. They're the heaviest medals in history. They are, the gold medal weighs about 1.5 pounds. The idea being, I wanted us, when we hung it on the figure skater's neck, that she felt the tug, that there was a, you know, it's a very significant feel.
So how long does it take to actually produce a finished medal?
19.5 hours.
Just here?
Each medal.
When it gets down to those little particular designs in there, I mean, do you have to work it by hand at all?
Well, what happens is you cut it as close as you can, but you're going to have what's called toe marks no matter what you do, and they're hand worked. Gary Felice is our guy who did that. It's called crystal pointing, and he works every area of this by hand to smooth it out and make it perfect.
They wanted a combination of a machine look, which the mill gives it, but they wanted that hand finished look, and that's something that the mill will never leave. So I have to go back in and just smooth everything up and just make all the detail stand out, kind of bring it to life, actually.
Not only does it say Salt Lake 2002, but it talks about the venue, snowboarding in this case, ice hockey, and then it talks about the specific event within the venue. And then the best part, I think, is the picture. I mean, you get a picture of a guy snowboarding down the mountain there, and you know, that's marvelous. The medals have never been tailored like that before to the individual event.
How is it for you to be working on the Olympic medal?
No, it's something that I never expected. Such a prestigious thing to do. I guess you could put it as Olympic athletes, they work their whole life to win one. I guess I've worked my whole life to create one, so it's real special.
Oh, is this my Congressional Medal of Honor?
Congressional.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Look at this. Everything we've done keys to this phrase, light the fire within.
Yeah.
We went out and talked to athletes, too, and we said, help us design an Olympic medal. And they said a few things that we kept in mind. One is, make the ring so you can see them. If you get an Olympic medal, I don't want to have it on the wall and no one can tell what it is.
Right.
They said, make it interesting to hold. And you'll note that the sides of this are very tactile, interesting, and unusually shaped, each one separately finished, a work of art.
Last night I had the opportunity to go over to Abravanel Hall for the recording of our Olympic theme, or the Olympic fanfare, composed by John Williams. What a remarkable experience to be there in between the Utah Symphony Orchestra and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir to hear this piece. And it's the first time they've ever used voice in it.
There'll be 3.5 billion people watching our opening ceremony, so incredible pressure. We've got a tagline, that's our vision statement, Light the Fire Within, and it's really about the athlete's power to inspire. These big inspiring images towering around Metals Plaza. The buildings are really our centerpiece, the cityscape program, and these giant Olympic images.
Once we get the city done, it's never been done before. It's never been done before that I know of at this magnitude. This is spectacular. The world's going to be amazed. We use a 10.5-foot wide mesh, and we print it 10.5 feet wide. So it's a lot like the desktops printers you guys have at home, but it's just on a grander format. This is 180 feet tall. The best way I could put this would be like when your child comes home from school and gives you a picture and you put it on your refrigerator. It's an honor, it really is.
The most challenging part of the building is they're all different. And these building owners have been great to work with. They're allowing us to drape these large images over their buildings.
The relay torch that's running around the country has glass at the top, and you see the flame burning inside. How you become a runner in our torch relay is you wrote a story about somebody that inspired you, and that person gets to run.
I believe that people are going to grasp the torch as it goes through all the states, especially in the Northeast, as the symbol that it is, and that's of peace, of bringing people together. You're going to see tens and hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets as it goes through all our different cities and states who are going to, I think, rejoice in having some symbol that reassures them that things are, sure, a little unsettled, but in the end, it's going to be okay.
I love you guys! Your own family is involved in this, in running the torch.
Well, as a matter of fact, my mother, who is on January 14th in San Diego, she's going to be a torchbearer.
Who knew? A selection once clouded in scandal, threatened by terrorism, has knit together a manifesto on how a people can rise above their trouble.
Now more than ever, the world does need these games. It's a unique setting to have the world come together in the sense of peace and brotherhood under an umbrella of sport, and an opportunity actually for some healing for the world.
They are almost ready now, and as workers up there at the top of Rice-Eccles Stadium apply the finishing touches, the organizers of these Salt Lake City Games, beset with so many of their own special challenges, are hoping they take home the gold. Thanks for watching. I'm Keith Morrison. See you at the game.
For complete coverage of the Salt Lake City Games, visit prime.msnbc.com.